All right. Happy Wednesday, everybody. Happy hump day. Hope everyone's having a great start to the day and actually the week. Midweek is a great opportunity to engage, be a part of our Producers Edge live training event here that you're a part of. And, what a better way than to share ideas, processes, and best practices around ways to help elevate your opportunities in the annuity and life insurance arena, specifically around the long-term care topic. This is a very important topic we're going to cover today. We feel it's a very underserved audience or underserved solution for retirement age clients. And if you're an annuity producer, this is a great opportunity to re-engage with all the clients you've sold in the past. If you're a life insurance producer, hey, it's along the lines of what you're talking about now, but talking about solutions that have very limited, what I call lower entry points for underwriting, no health questions, some even offering guaranteed issue opportunities. If you're doing final expense or even Medicare sales, again, if you're looking for another lane of opportunity to increase your sales this year, summertime is just around the corner. And for some people, for whatever reason, they say, hey, they want to take the pedal off the metal. But if you're serious about hitting your financial goals this year, if you're behind and you're like looking for ways to re-engage prospects or clients you haven't fully gotten all the business from, this is your sign to stay fully engaged with us from beginning to the end, because we want to make sure that you get what you should get out of this, which is like getting excited about wanting to implement some of the things we're going to talk about today, which is the long-term care playbook. That's why you're here. We're going to talk about that and give you guys a little preview. So, the little formalities out of the way. My name is Phil Dizon, a founder and president and founder of the Retirement Show 360, which is our flagship program for marketing, but also the Win Group Wealth Integrity Network. I'm here with my colleagues, our success coaches, our senior VPs here at the Win Group. Many of you know their names, Brett Riley and Ricky Villa. They're going to be the guys that are going to be on the front lines connecting with you before, during, and after our event to ensure your success. So I want to make sure you guys know who we are, and we're here to help you get to the next level. So let me pull up my slides here real quick. Again, the annuity sales blueprint, the case for care, long-term care agent playbook. This is a part of our Retirement Shield 360 system. It is our roadmap to helping elevate your annuity sales process. Again, no, regardless of what stage you're at in your practice, this is an opportunity to help elevate your sales. Again, you're here to learn more about the agent playbook. You come to the right place. We're going to do a little walkthrough of this playbook, give you a little preview, right? And show some of sprinkle some of the cookie crumbs that are connected to that playbook, which is our demo slides, really the scripts, the objection handling, the handouts, all the pieces to the puzzle that are going to help you engage with a prospect or client around long-term care hybrid solutions. We're also going to cover a little bit about what these hybrid long-term care solutions actually look like. Because obviously, at the end of the day, you got to have an understanding of what are the opportunities for solutions. We're going to touch on that in a little bit. All right, we're going to talk about the playbook. We're going to go through the different parts of what the playbook actually looks like itself. So before we dive into what the playbook actually is, it's really important to establish why we're here, right? If you're here, if you're working in the retirement age market, hopefully you've seen the writing on the wall that we are truly in a long-term care dilemma, right? Rising costs of long-term care are going through the roof. And if you're truly a retirement planner, right? If you're truly about managing income, well, are you truly managing their income properly if you're not addressing one of the biggest threats to their retirement? I'm not talking about taxes because we already know it's kind of built into the conversation. Hopefully, you're building that in already, but it's long-term care, right? If they're forced in a long-term care situation, that to me and for a lot of people, it's kind of like that ticking time bomb that they hope doesn't go off, right? Well, here's the problem though, right? 70% of Americans are going to need some type of long-term care assistance, right? So that's a pretty big statistic, right? I've for many of you who like to gamble, I mean, if you had a 70% chance of winning, I would bet on that all day, right? Well, then we better bet that, hey, 70% of your clients are going to need some type of care. That's a huge audience that's underserved, right? And here's the other problem. Many of your clients are worried about being a burden to their families, knowing that 100% of that cost, if they aren't managing their retirement properly, and if they run out of assets, end up being covered by the family members. or they end up being the ones to care for you, right? Or for your clients, meaning there's their children. I've seen that just recently with one of my close friends growing up, where they've had to care for their 90-year-old mother, their sister, and their brother, rotating their mother around to different spots just to spread the burden of having to care because they couldn't afford to get the ultimate care they want, which is, having a home care assistant. So again, these are the real challenges your clients are facing and looking at. Again, the cost, I'm not going to get into numbers here. Every market's a little bit different, but generally speaking, for a average person stays in a full-time care facility for about 2.5 years. You do the numbers, that could easily wipe out your clients' assets in retirement. A lot of people think Medicare, that's going to cover me. Well, and I can get into the details here. We're actually going to be doing a special training on this for our Retirement Shield members with one of the national organizations that are experts on IRMA are going to be actually joining one of our future training calls. So if you're not a member of Retirement Shield, talk to Ricky or Brett about being a part of that call next Tuesday. But I'm telling you guys, Medicare does not cover all their costs when it comes to long-term care. In fact, it doesn't give them the best care at all. And so again, more details on that. Make sure to connect with our team. We can dive into that later. Here's the other risks involved when it comes to long-term care. What are the solutions that are out there that have been traditionally a part of the recommendation on long-term care coverage? Well, long-term care insurance. The problem with traditional long-term care insurance are the premium costs. We're not seeing more insurance companies provide long-term care, true long-term care insurance. More companies are getting out of it, right? You look at the last 20 plus years, and those companies that were in the game 10 years ago, 15 years ago, Genworth comes to mind. They're out of the game. They're not issuing new policies anymore. The cost is rising so fast they can't keep up. And what ends up happening to existing policyholders, well, their premiums are then now going up because of that. And again, it ties to that problem that a lot of clients may be thinking about. Yes, they do want long-term coverage, but they don't want to pay for it. All right, let's continue. What are some of the other challenges? Underwriting. Most traditional long-term care policies have strict underwriting rules. Many times they will never qualify for the best rate. So right off the bat, they're going to be at a higher premium, or they can't qualify at all, right? Again, a big challenge is the older you get, the more chances you're going to have ailments that could prevent you from getting traditional long-term care. And then last but not least, the benefits and how you trigger it, right? A lot of times in order to get the benefit that you've been paying into, they make you jump through a lot of hoops in order to get it, all right? So what are we talking about here, right? What is the alternative? And I'm going to lightly touch on this because in 2 weeks, we're going to have a more in-depth training on what those solutions look like. But there is an annuity advantage, right? What does that annuity advantage looks like? Well, we have products that exist out there. Some of you are probably familiar with it, that base triggering events to accelerate benefits or to enhance their income by qualifying ADLs, right? Not being able to perform 2 out of 6 ADLs. One of those carriers that specializes in some of these products is Equitrust. And now I mentioned this again, in 2 weeks, we're going to have a special guest, one of the leading sales directors at Equitrust will be joining us in 2 weeks for a special members only training covering one of the biggest products out there that addresses a lot of the issues we're talking about with long-term care through an annuity, right? Think about that. An annuity contract, an FIA product, index annuity product that grows, has a cash value growth with no risk on the downside, only upside with the interest, but it provides the ability to enhance their initial deposit immediately up to 330%. What are we talking about here? We're talking about leveraging their current assets, right? Rainy day money, money that's sitting in a CD, money that's sitting in an underperforming annuity, money that's sitting potentially in a IUL, right? There's a lot of what I call struggling, I should say, sorry, struggling IUL policies out there. They're not underperforming because it's being eroded by the fees. As they get older, their fees are now taken away from the cash value. So there's a lot of people that are sitting on maybe 20, 30, $50,000 in their IUL policy that could be redistributed into an annuity that could enhance that benefit or that deposit by up to 300%, paying those benefits tax free. Again, not going to dive too much into this, but I'm painting a picture here for what some of these solutions that are out there on that. Ricky, Brett, anything to add to this before we move on in terms of the products and some of the solutions that are out there?
Yeah, I mean, this product's still pretty new, right? It's been out for a handful of years, and I think if you haven't really gotten a full breakdown on this and incorporated it into, the way that you're presenting long-term care to your potential prospects, I mean, you should definitely learn about this, get plugged into what we got going on. We're constantly doing product training, keeping you up to speed on everything that's new in the environment of long-term care and annuities. And then, and if you connect with us, we'll get you plugged in so you can join that training here in a couple weeks. Because there's more than just this product, right? I know that we have a long-term care specialist that's a part of our team as well, Scott, that we can get you in touch with down the road. And he has his own cheat sheet that gives you not just annuities, but hybrids, single premium IULs, products that offer or allow for qualified funds to pay for long-term care benefits, not just non-qualified, things like that. So, depending on the need of your client, we can really cater the case design to be specific to their, customized to their needs.
Yeah.
Yeah.
100%.
And I think another important thing that you already mentioned is just the guaranteed issue. The biggest
Yes.
opportunity in this market is for folks that aren't going to be approved for traditional life insurance. If you're a life insurance agent on this call and you're thinking of the dozens, if not hundreds of people that you've maybe tried to sell life insurance to that didn't qualify, or the premiums were going to be so high they were unaffordable, this product doesn't get more expensive just because they're in bad health. Yes, they'll get a lesser benefit, but it doesn't get more expensive. 100 grand turns into the benefit and costs 100 grand regardless. So there's a huge market for people that wouldn't qualify for traditional life insurance. And if you're sitting here on this call and you're one of those life insurance agents, you have a gold mine sitting right in front of you that you could make tens of thousands, if not hundreds of thousands of dollars in commissions on, and really be providing a value to an audience that otherwise couldn't get it. So this is huge.
100%. And I posted in the chat. Good point, Brett. That's a very important benefit to this program is the guaranteed issue conversation, right? Regardless of your client's health, they can qualify for something, right? And these numbers that we're talking about, the 155, 200 plus percent, 300 plus percent, that's just the starting point. In addition, you'll learn about this more on our May 26th members only training event where we're going to dive into this with Equitrust in a deeper level. But that's just the starting point. It actually builds a guaranteed roll up on top of that for up to 20 years, which you and I know they're probably not going to exercise this benefit in 10 to 15 years from now. So again, more details on that. If you're not a member, go to the LTCagentplaybook.com to book an access and demo call with Brett, Ricky, or myself. And then, of course, I know Brett and Ricky, if some of you already work with them directly, they'll post a direct link to their calendars as well, so that you don't miss out on being a part of that members only training on May 26th. All right. So let's move on here because the product is obviously great to know. You know that there are solutions out there, but more importantly, the product doesn't matter, right? We all have access to product. The question is, how do I engage my audience? How do I get in front of the right people so that I'm actually having conversations about the product? How do you get there, right? It's about what's my starting point? And so a big part of what we're going to talk about, is the long-term care playbook. Now, by the way, we actually did a few weeks back internally, we did a personal training on some of the long-term care products that we talked about, including the long-term care bridge. So if you do want to get a preview of some of the things that we talked about in 2 weeks, feel free to watch that out after our event at the ltcagentplaybook.com. There you'll actually watch, it's about a 45-minute hour video, and we actually dive into the bridge product and it'll give you a good insight. But there's no better trainer than hearing it from the horse's mouth at Equitrust, to make sure you don't miss out on May 26th. All
Hey
right,
Phil, I
so
want to make sure
oh
we
yeah.
get that link in the chat. We don't actually have the ability to message everybody. So if you can somehow give us permission there to message everybody, we'll make sure to get those links in the chat so people can get on those sites.
Gotcha. Gotta get you guys co-host abilities here and make sure I got Ricky as a co-host and I got Brett now, so you're good. So both of you guys got it now. All right,
Uh,
so moving on, in regards to what the playbook is, what is the playbook? Well, it's an extension of what we do with the Retirement Shield 360 system. What is the RS360 system? Well, it's really a four-phase process. It's our formula for success. I'm sure I'm preaching to the choir for those who are familiar with this, but I think it's important to always reemphasize the structure that we built our success on. It's credibility, it's content, it's making the right connections, and it's building community around the things that you're doing properly. So you're having a reinforcement of the right things, being able to share challenges and wins when amongst your peers. And a big part of that starts with the agent playbook itself. And so a big part of that process that we address with the playbook is credibility. In that playbook, we talk about how we enhance your credibility through our tools, whether it be our book, our Amazon best-selling book, whether it be through our podcasts, whether it be through website development, creative marketing. These are the things that are part of the playbook, an extension of the playbook that we help establish for producers that are teamed up with the Win Group. If you're a member of the Win Group or the R360, you'll have access to utilize white label, I should say, our book right here that I'm holding in my hand. Now, what's the power of white labeling a book that's already been written? Well, first of all, it's the symbolic, right? The shield is one of the best metaphors that we use to signify protection. Protection of what, though? Right? Protection of income, Social Security, taxes, volatility, and long-term care, right? And this is a storytelling book that allows for you to really make this about not about what you've done, but what the network has done, right? The way, and we go over this in our best practices for our members, is how to use the book and explain it as you being a part of the team that helped write the book. And that book gets your foot in the door, right? So that's part of the credibility. Second, what's a part of that playbook is the content, right? In the playbook, we actually reference one of our slide presentations that we just recently built called the Case for Care. We're going to give you a preview of that here in a few minutes. And that content is that visual part of the conversation that many of you aren't having, right? You know, our words are powerful, right? And I think if you reach this moment in your life, you've had a level of success using your charisma and your salesmanship to get where you need to go. But today's retiree, especially the emerging Gen X generation that's going to be retiring, they're more visual than ever. They need visuals to match up with what you're talking about. And so our Case for Care slide presentation that we're going to go over is going to give you that tool to visualize what it means to have a long-term care opportunity to solve a long-term care problem. Connections. How do we help you get connected with the right people that could be a good audience for the long-term care solution? Well, that's in the playbook as well. In the playbook, we actually walk you through examples of how you would engage your book of business or your clients or prospects that are in your book to uncover long-term care solutions. And last but not least, it's the community. I mentioned that earlier, right? It's the people that are on this call, myself, Ricky, Brett, but it extends beyond that. We have a membership of over 200 plus agents across the nation that are constantly sharing ideas on our weekly Tuesday calls, by the way, that we do every single week. This is a big part of our success. We'll reinforce some of the best practices from the playbook on these calls. All right. So again, I'm going to switch gears now, get off my slides and actually share what the playbook looks like. But again, if you're interested in making sure you get the full version of the playbook, go to ltcagentplaybook.com, complete the form or book a access demo call with us so we can walk you through the steps of getting access to the playbook at no cost. And like I said, that includes the slide presentation called the Case for Care and including the handouts that are connected to that. Before I open up the playbook, anything to add to what we just covered with the four pillars of success with the Retirement Shield?
No, I just want to emphasize that like we really try to think of all of the steps, right? Like all the angles. It's not just one portion of it and then good luck on the rest, right? Like the community angle or aspect that you mentioned at the end is a huge part of what we do. We hear a lot of great insight from agents that are writing 1 to 2 million, 5 million, 10 million, up to 50 million a year. And we consistently are in front of these type of agents asking a lot of questions about what is it about your secret sauce? Like, what are you adding to your business? What is changing the game for you? And then they give us that information back. we kind of just condense it down for you, put it on a training platform for you that you get free access to so that you can go through and just try to get 1% better every day with your business. Maybe it's a sales process thing that you need to enhance. Maybe it is the credibility. Maybe you're just not looking quite as impressive in that first meeting, and we can enhance that and make you look at, even better and elevate, that first impression you make. Whatever it is, we'll break that down for you and help position you or put you in a position to be selling more annuities. Because if that's what you want to do, selling more product, whether it be even hybrid life insurance, LTC products, that's what we're here to support. So, yeah, I love that breakdown, Phil, because we'll dive deeper into each of those elements.
Perfect, perfect, awesome, well said. So let's go ahead and give you a preview of what you would get as a member of the Retirement Shield community. So number one, everything exists on our hub, and our hub is all managed through a platform called School. We have an app that's built around this, and inside our hub is a classroom section where we have dedicated courses around the playbook. One of those, we have other playbooks, we have other concepts built around Social Security income, even estate planning. But we're going to cover our specifically the Case for Care playbook. And here, as a member, you'll be able to download it fully. But let's go ahead and walk through this real quickly. Spend this a quick 5 minutes walking through what exists here. I mentioned before, this is from top to bottom, 42 pages worth of content, where you're not just getting, information about the tools that we just covered, whether it be the book or the slides, but we literally walk you through that four-phase process. What should that discovery phase look like, right? And we highlight this here later, how that four-phase process should look like when it comes to engaging a client. We also give you the engagement templates. I'm talking about emails, text messages, and the workflow of how you should deliver those emails and text messages over a 30-day, 60-day, even a 90-day campaign, right? Again, this isn't just about, hey, let's have a conversation. No, it's intentional conversations that start with a beginning point. And that beginning point usually is an email or a text message, right? And it includes making some phone calls. And that's, again, a part of the next part, which is the phone scripts. You know, we look at actors, we look at television, we say, man, they say their lines. What differentiates a good actor from someone who's not? It's how well they're able to use the lines that are given and personalize it. So our phone scripts are meant to be read word for word, but we give you a guide of what the conversation should look like. And in addition to that, we even give you the objection handling. What are the top objections that you're going to face when talking about long-term care hybrid solutions like we discussed earlier and that we're going to be training on in a few weeks. Real quickly, we mentioned it before, one of the key components of our success is that Retirement Shield book, how we help you white label and personalize it as your own with their name on the front, your name on the back with a little mini bio and a picture. And then again, for more details, we even give you a chance to actually have your own chapter in the book. Beyond that, the tools are the slide presentation deck. We're going to actually give you a preview of that here pretty soon. But this is a part of what the playbook really is, the meat to the bones here. And I'm not going to get into this beyond what I'm going to share with you here is that we literally break down each phase. The discovery phase, and we actually break the discovery phase into three parts. The discovery phase and how you initiate the conversation through email and text. Phase two, which is the first phone call that you're going to have about whether or not they're a good candidate for what we call our care buffer solution. And then third, the demonstration of how the long-term care buffer or what we call the care buffer can do for their retirement, right? So we break that down to three parts, phase one, but then we also get into the analysis. What should the analysis actually look like? Implementation, and then putting the shield into action. So this is all broken down in our playbook. And this is why I want to, give you access to this by going to our ltcagentplaybook.com. I'm going to skip down to the templates here because I want to give you a little preview of how these templates look like. Like a lot of people say, oh, okay, no, these are just, your everyday templates anybody can make. No, these are specifically designed to engage your client almost daily or every other day, at least initially, with some intentional purpose that brings up different topics that could potentially draw them to the conversation. So yes, long-term care is the initial or is maybe the end goal. But here's the thing though, guys, you can't solve long-term care or provide the care buffer solution unless you resolve their income, right? Because in order to determine how you can solve long-term care, we need to protect first and establish what that looks like. And that's going to be making sure that their Social Security is optimized, making sure that we're driving enough income to cover their expenses. Once you solve that, then the care buffer becomes more real. So that's why in our templates, we actually provide different entry points of conversations through different topics because we understand that, hey, you can't just talk about long-term care for 90 days through an email component. Jumping here a little forward here, I'm going to talk a little bit about here is our phone script. Here we detail how to open the door, whether you're calling cold or calling as a response to someone filling out a form to get more information. That this is how we detail the phone script, right? It's not just we thought of every potential approach that you're going to go into this, and it ensures that you have a way to approach it, whether it's a follow-up call again or somebody that's responded to your invitation. And then jumping down to the objections part. This is a big part of what I think you maybe could be in the back of your head. Well, maybe I'm afraid. What if they bring something up that, puts me on the spot that I may not have an answer for? Well, we thought of what those questions might be. These are the four top or five objections you're going to be dealing with. And again, when you gain access to the playbook, we detail how to have that response, right? So again, another reason I'm not going to get into this in too much detail. I'm just giving you a 10,000 foot view so that you can initiate the next steps to gain access. What I really want to dive into, though, are the visuals that you're going to use with the playbook to engage your client. But anything to add to this, guys? I know we were going through this really fast, but that's intentional because we want to get to the slides here real quickly to give you guys some additional meat to the bones to the full process that we use with
I was gonna say the
the
playbook's kind of like what you keep in your back pocket, right? Like this is like internal. This is behind the scenes. This is what when you're like, hey, what's something else I can do here to try and get some more people to be connecting with me? Okay, let me go to these email templates. I got to get somebody on that, or, as an assistant, or I got to automate something that's gonna make sure everybody in my book of business is getting these emails, every couple days, things like that. Text messages, all that. So the playbook is designed for you to be, internally help support what you're doing with your business. And then the actual slide deck presentation that we're about to jump into is more of the client facing presentation that you can bring to those meetings once you get the connections, once you've scheduled those visits or appointments, however you call it. This is what you can bring to the table to present to them. And I'm excited to kind of dive into that with the care buffer and all that.
Yeah,
100%.
same here. Let's get right into it.
Yeah.
Yeah, let's pull up those slides. And so the playbook is like what I would call like like as you said, Ricky, it's your reference for how you're navigating through the sales process. You're not literally using the playbook with your client. That's like your roadmap. That's your secret sauce to how you're engaging client. This is part of the client-facing tool that comes with the playbook. This is where you've taken that next step to engage your client through a first discovery call. And now you're setting up that second appointment to show them, visualize what it means to potentially consider having a care buffer. So we've titled this the case for care. And total, there's 25 slides. We're not going to go through all the slides, but what we will do is establish how we're actually setting the stage for the conversation. I'm going to go through the first few slides here. And the whole goal and intention behind this is to give you the tools and not just the slides, but also the conversation points that you should have. We actually have detailed notes with every slide that gives you a reference to what the purpose is behind the slide and the talking points that add to it. Now, you can add your own 2 cents to it, add your own insights to each topic. We just want to establish a foundation for the conversation so it moves the conversation forward. So what are we doing here with the slide presentation? Well, we're here to establish, whether or not a care buffer, a long-term care solution is even needed in the retirement. So a big part of what we're here today is establish why. Why are we here? We want this. We want to ensure that your retirement is fully protected. And off the bat, the idea is to establish not just what they want to, why they want to protect it, but what exactly are they protecting, right? It's for their freedom. It's their independence. It's time with their family. It's peace of mind, right? The problem doesn't become much of a problem if they don't know exactly what they're protecting. And so it's so important right up front that we set the stage for what is it that you're trying to protect, which is the opportunity to protect what matters most. Then we get into what we've coined the live care legacy approach to retirement, right? And we always talk about the possible outcomes of what this might look like, which is, hey, you spent your years, right, saving money properly. You've reached this point where now you're entering retirement. Congratulations. But that's not just the only phase you should be thinking about, right? I would say 95% of your competition that's out there is not talking about the next phase of retirement, which is the care phase of retirement, right? This is the untold truth of the 70% of Americans are gonna where they're gonna need to address this. The other part is legacy. Now, why does legacy have to do with the care buffer? Well, it has a lot to do with it. Because if your assets are being depleted by long-term care costs, if you end up being forced to sell your home because of long-term care costs, if you're being forced to liquidate assets from emergency funds because of long-term care costs, well, then guess what? That leaves not much behind to your surviving spouse or the kids that are going to end up caring for you. And as I'm saying you, I'm talking as the agent. But honestly, guys, this is also for you too. I'm a big believer that if you're gonna talk the talk, you got to walk the walk as well. And there's no better way than to show that you understand the benefits of long-term care than adopting some of these solutions yourself. So, hey, there's no better client to look at than looking at yourself first. Highly recommend it. Our team can help you put together what some of these long-term care bridge solutions might look like. And I would definitely look at yourself first if you're in that age range where you might be qualified for a care buffer option.
I
Ricky,
look at
go
the
ahead.
slide presentation as like that we're painting the picture here, right? Like our job when you're in front of a potential prospect is to get the light bulb to go off in their head and get them to really visualize why would a care buffer even be valuable to what I don't already have. And that's what the visuals of going slide by slide is there to help you do that, to ask questions around each slide and different element to get them to open up and talk more out loud about what's important to them and get them to think about things in a way they haven't thought about it yet, right? Like they've probably already seen another presentation here or had a couple conversations with another advisor, and they might have been very vanilla about that and just had just an actual just word to word conversation. They never actually saw anything. And here are you coming in, you're the first person to actually bring a professional visualization of what that means. And they're like, holy crap, no one's done this with me before. I'm starting to see and think things in my brain that I've never even thought of yet. And that's where you're gonna start going down the path of getting them to open up and really just like create more of a credibility and a connection to where they're going to open up more about wanting to maybe work with you, because you can build a plan that they can see and visualize what the next 20 years are going to look like for them, right? So that's what this is here to do. It's there to elevate and enhance the way that you've been trying to connect with people maybe in the past. And if you feel like it's not really been working, then how is it going to hurt to try something like this, bring this into the field? And we're literally just sharing with you what we hear other agents that are having success are doing, right? We're just trying to mirror exactly what they're doing and offer
Yep.
it to other agents, in this regard.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
100%.
Yeah.
So a big part of this slide presentation is establishing the foundation for, again, why we're having this conversation then, but moving quickly to the next stage, which is the potential pitfalls in the retirement. Right now, we're kind of like hinting that, hey, maybe we've solved the income part or the growth part of retirement, but have we addressed the care and legacy? Maybe this is a client that you haven't earned the business from yet. This allows for you to have that conversation. Hey, yes, we're going to talk about long-term care, but we actually haven't addressed the live part of retirement yet, which is making sure you're having enough to live on when it comes to retirement. So this helps establish not just the care part of retirement, but if you haven't solved the live part of retirement, this helps you do that. Again, moving along here, again, this is establishing why the care part of the care phase of retirement is so important. And I think this is a big part that, again, that many agents, your competition, I should say, aren't really addressing is the fact that their fears of what if their health changes? Who's going to be the first person that they're going to be thinking about that's going to be impacted the most, right? If you can't perform 2 to 6 ADLs, or if you have a catastrophic event where it requires full-time care, who would be the first person that would be impacted? Is it your spouse? Is it your kids? Or is it your retirement money? Right? So think about that, right? If they don't have a spouse or kids, well, they're going to have them to spend it themselves. That could quickly become depleted. And again, it goes back to that whole idea that, well, maybe Medicare will cover me. Well, that means you're looking at depending on the most minimal care that's not going to give you the most optimal living standards. And let's talk about your lifestyle, right? And that it goes back to this. freedom, independence, peace of mind, and time with family in the right way. Moving on, the big part of this is just, again, truly establishing that the care part of their retirement, this is the missing puzzle piece, that if they've already addressed this, if we've already addressed the growth and the income, protecting their growth and protecting their income, how do we protect those two things, right? Just because you've given them income doesn't mean that they're out of the woods yet, right? One of the big questions that we establish in our script, right? In the playbook is asking the question from a scale 1 to 5, 5 being the most confident, 1 being the least confident. How confident would you be if you had a $7,000 a month long-term care bill every month? How confident would you be? How confident would your income now be? That puzzle piece, it wouldn't look whole anymore. It would look broken. It'd be cut in half. It'd be cut by 70, 80% potentially. Maybe for some people, a $7,000 a month long-term care bill might eliminate that whole income puzzle altogether, right? So again, we're trying to visualize this for your client, and we do that by establishing numbers, right? We say, hey, these are the numbers that we're thinking about. This is the impact to your retirement that we're trying to solve. And so moving forward here, I want to kind of just give you the 10,000-foot view as quickly as I can, but we do what we can to really put the visual behind what the care buffer looks like. We've been using the word care buffer. What's the care buffer? Well, it's that long-term care hybrid solution through an FIA with guaranteed issue benefits. That's the care buffer, establishing and leveraging assets that they're not using. And this is one of the slides we actually cover in the presentation, whether it's money sitting in low yield accounts, again, CD money, underperforming FIA products, maybe even the standalone variable products that are exposed to risk, maybe underperforming FIAs that they're not really touching for retirement. It could be, again, underperforming life insurance cash value products. Again, this is all built into the conversation, right? Everything that we talked about earlier, kind of setting the stage up for you to kind of see the bigger picture. These are the same exact topics that we're going to cover, that you're going to cover with your client in a slide presentation. We just wrapped it together with a red bow, right? And instead of talking about an annuity up front, we use the care buffer description or adjective to help establish what this is without calling it an annuity. If there's one thing that you walked away from today's training, is using the care buffer concept to talk about long-term care solutions, right? And so this whole process that we built is to do one thing. It's to help you get that next appointment, right? That's what the whole goal and intention of the slide is: get that next appointment where now you're having a conversation about analyzing their current situation, maybe reviewing their current retirement that you didn't do before, establishing their income, establishing their growth, and then wrapping that long-term care buffer in there to ensure that you're protecting them properly, fully, that last piece of the puzzle. That this protects their income, but it also protects their legacy. So
Yeah, we've
it's our 1, 2, 3 approach, to establishing the conversation.
I was going to say that we've seen so much success, again, from our top producers that are able to train, teach, educate the prospects on the other side of the table or the other side of the call around the features of what these buffers can do for them. A buffer account, a safer bucket of money. They're speaking about the annuity and the product without saying it's a product. They're doing a good job of breaking it apart into bullet points and then, teaching them around the value and speaking about it in a way that relates to the other, the person on the other side of the table. Because, we're very inside in this insurance industry, and all this inside jargon that we talk about when it comes to product, it makes sense to us, but the average, consumer, it does not, right? So you got to speak about the features in a way that makes sense to them so that they're so warmed up about it and getting excited about that feature. By the time you pull out the actual car that, you've told them, talked to them about the engine, by the time you pull out, hey, this is the product that I thought that has those exact features we said we wanted. And this is what I think is going to be able to execute that plan for you. Would you be interested in doing this? They're already like, so it has those bullet points we talked about earlier that you sold me on and got me excited about. Yeah, exactly. Sure. Show me how it works. You see what I'm saying? Like versus just, well, I got this product and I think you needed these features and this is why. That doesn't work as often, right? And we're just trying to up your probability, up your percentage, up that closing percentage so that you feel like I'm not even working any harder here. I just switched up
Right.
my messaging a little bit and now I'm selling more business, right?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
But the important part of what you're talking about, the product part of it, I want to make sure we establish that the goal isn't to bring up a product in the presentation. The goal is to talk about reviewing their current situation,
Yep.
whether finding out if they qualify for the care buffer, right? Because, and I think that's the part that I think many agents kind of get in that trap, which is like, man, maybe they're on the edge of their seat and wanting something that you have to offer, and then quickly going too quickly to showing an illustration. Let me tell you everything about this product and what it's going to do. You go, well, you don't want to put the cart before the horse. And that's why what I'm showing you here next is the discovery profile worksheet. Is that in order to identify whether or not a illustration or a product is even a good fit, you have to establish where they're currently at. And with that, we have a worksheet that complements the conversation. It allows for you to kind of have some point of references for what you should be bringing up, what kind of questions you should be thinking about that leads on that path for them to be open to consider a care buffer, if not open, actually wanting a care buffer for their retirement, right? And so this is a kind of a one-two-step process that's built into this worksheet so that as you're having this conversation up front and after the actual presentation, you're able to continue the conversation to set them up for that third appointment, which is what, right? Reviewing the current situation, identifying is there a problem, and then now showing what that care buffer could actually look like in action. And Ricky, that's what we're talking about. That's where that product comes in next, right? The product now comes in on that next appointment, where you're now able to establish the foundation for the need. Now they're ready to be truly open for what the solution could potentially look like.
Yep.
Right.
So
I
yeah,
love what you're saying there. You want to put off putting the product in front of them as long as you possibly can, honestly. You want them champing at the bit by the time you put the product in front of them. We're like, you've asked me so many questions. What is this all for? What is this leading towards, right? The other effect that it has too is helping them realize that what you're doing for them is customized, personalized to them. That, oh, if I could, if something like this existed in the world, I'm going to find it for you. When most likely you already know what direction you're going to push them, but the quicker you put that product in front of them, the less personal it feels, the more it feels, oh, I offer this to everyone, I do this for anybody. You want them wait until second, third appointment to even see a product, hear about a carrier, so that they feel, based on the hours and hours of conversations that you've had leading up to that, this is personally meant to address their situation.
100%, Brett. I'm glad you're emphasizing that because, I think that traditionally, I think we've all kind of been taught, hey, go for the juggler. If you got a sale, if it's sitting right in front of you, go for it, close them, right? Well, today's retiree isn't built like that anymore, right? Today's consumer they're information junkies, right? They're looking at AI, right? They're running things through ChatGPT, through Gemini AI, constantly now, right? One of our big training events happening in Las Vegas at our business summit is addressing the new age of retirees. It's not just the baby boomer generation anymore. That baby boomer reference is now going to be dying off. It's going to be the Gen X generation retiring. But the Gen X generation grew up with the internet. They grew up with information, and they grew up with that you have to verify and confirm everything. So as you said, Brett, the faster you get to providing a product or solution or if you get to it too quickly, it causes them to question or to validate what that actually even quicker.
Yeah, and I
And
look.
that's why we spend a lot of time. Oh, go ahead.
Oh, I was just gonna say, like, I looked at, like, it might work once, but like if you're thinking of like a long-term 12-month period, 2, 3 year period, that approach is not going to work consistently. If you want consistency month over month and having more consistent production coming in and hitting bigger numbers, then that's what we're hearing more and more of is, again, our biggest producers. This approach is works way more than the other approach of putting the product in too quick. Our lower producers, the ones that only, oh, well, I write a couple annuities a year and I get a couple sales a year, they're the ones putting the product in front of their face over and over again. That's why they're kind of capped at how far they're able to get along. So it does work sometimes, but again, if you want to hit higher numbers and over a larger sample size, see more consistency, this type of an approach is what we just keep hearing over and over again is happening from our top producers.
Right. We're not
Yeah.
looking for inconsistent sales here and there. We're here to create a system, something repeatable, something consistent, so that
Yep.
you can not just pay the bills, but make that fun money and go enjoy your lives as well. So
Yep.
this is what we're doing here is we're trying to create systems, repeatable processes. That's why these playbooks, these slides exist. We want you not just shooting in the dark and just throwing something at the wall and hoping it sticks. We want you doing a calculated process over and over and over and over again, working at a 20% success ratio. And quite honestly, you're going to be living very good.
Yeah, oh, absolutely. And I think that's a big part of, why we know what we know works is that we've taken the best of the top producers and understand that when you have what I call a seasoning period, right, of helping engaging a client, building the credibility around your expertise, building credibility around your process, building credibility around their needs, meaning asking good questions, right? This is all the formula that it takes to have more success. And that's why today, a big part of our success, in addition to the playbook, right, are the tools that we use. And establishing that foot in the door is utilizing the Retirement Shield book. And one of the offers that we have here today is that, and it's a part of being a member of the WIN group and a part of the Retirement Shield system, which is again no cost, is that we're here to partner up with you to establish an increase in sales. Our goal is to help you elevate your annuity sales. We are a national marketing organization where we do partner up with agents and advisors directly. And when you write that business through us, we put that money back, investment back into you. And a part of our $100,000 challenge is that on your next case of $100,000 or more, is that we'll actually cover the cost of customizing and white labeling the book for you. It's a $750 value. It puts your name on the front. It puts your bio on the back and your photograph on the back, and it becomes your new calling card, right? How many business cards that you've been given that you actually keep and that you put on a wall on a shelf to make sure you can reference it anytime you need that person? It gets stuffed either at the bottom of your miscellaneous drawer or in a garbage can. Let's be real, right? We've been taught that you don't throw away books. And there's no better book that's out there that helps visualize the concept of protecting the retirement other than the word retirement shield. And within the retirement shield are different shields. And today we covered, I think, one of the most important parts of protecting that retirement is a care buffer, a long-term care buffer, and having the right conversations, having the right tools and the right playbook to make sure you can have that conversation, have more conversations like that to open them up for a solution is the key. So that's our challenge for you. Go to the ltcagentplaybook.com to learn more about accessing the playbook, accessing the slides, becoming a free member if you're not yet. And if you are a member, great. Set up a call with Ricky and Brett. They can post their link to their calendars in the chat. They may have already. It gives you a chance to get a personalized walkthrough that we weren't able to cover fully here today. As a member, we want to give you access to everything as soon as possible. So we'd love to engage with you, have a conversation, help you talk about strategy planning and go to the next level. But Ricky or Brett, anything that we need to cover before we sign off?
I'm just so excited about this concept because there's a few big buttons that I think are getting pushed in the industry right now that are starting the conversations. And I think most effectively, it's been long-term care that can lead to an annuity sale faster than some of these other buttons that are being pushed, like estate planning or Roth conversions or other big buzzwords that I'm hearing a lot of. The long-term care crisis leads you directly to an annuity sale without a sale in the beginning because traditional long-term care insurance is exactly what we're trying to avoid selling, and that doesn't really exist in the way that it used to. So this approach is a way that really what we're trying to do with you all on this call and folks that may be watching the replay is help you write more business for free. Because we all know that you could go out and spend $10,000 to run a dinner seminar. You could commit to 3 months of $3,500 a month to a lead program and hope to God that somebody answers the phone. But this is the way to get business without spending a single dollar, uncovering opportunities that are right in front of you right now that you maybe didn't have the skills or the tools or the training to bridge that gap, like we're talking about, and head into this conversation with confidence. Because anybody can say, hey, do you want to talk about annuities? But that's not a credible way to enter into this conversation. And this playbook, these slides are the exact way to do that. So I'm really excited to get everybody plugged into this and show them how we can help you entirely for free, which is my favorite part about it.
And we're hearing from our top producers, only 50 to 60% of their business every year is coming from those marketing systems, like you said, that you got to pay for, and and then you're trying to hope to get the best ROI you can get. They're literally telling us 20 to 50% of what I write every year is coming from the way that I'm nurturing all of my past registrants, people in my book of business, people that I had a conversation with that were on the fence. They didn't quite, close, but I did have a good conversation, and they're staying on top of them. They're have an automated system in place, or they're the ones doing it, their assistants doing it, and there's emails and text messages going out and phone calls being made. And then there's just, whenever that person's ready to make a decision, that agent has the recency effect, and they're the first ones they thought of, and they came back to them and they were able to write business on them. So truly do not throw away that 20 to 50% of business opportunity there that's in your book of business, when you could utilize tools like this to farm them up and get them on your calendar. Yeah.
100%. Yeah, I mean, there's no other way to have better success than preparation meeting the opportunity. And that's a big part of our playbook. We talked about luck in some of our past conversations, and it's really, what does luck even mean, right? It's the results. Well, what are the results you want? More sales, more income, more commissions, doing the purpose that you're wanting, which is protecting your client's retirement. Well, it doesn't happen by itself, right? And for many of you, you're just missing the tools. You're missing the roadmap. You're missing the playbook that it gives you everything you need, the phone scripts, the tools, the slide presentations, the templates, the emails, the text messaging. I mean, literally, this 45-page handbook is literally everything you need so that you can go after it, as you said, Brett, without having to spend money out of your pocket to establish a sale. Because usually that second sale is waiting for you within your own book. So this is an opportunity to have a process, utilizing credibility behind the book, utilizing the process that we've, as you said, Ricky, has been shared with us by some of the top producers out there. We just put it together in one place, so you don't have to go to 5 different places to find these different pieces to the puzzle. So take that next step, ltcagentplaybook.com, or reach out to Ricky, Brett, or myself directly. And we're excited to connect with you guys. But thanks for participating in our overview today. And yeah, 2 weeks from now, we have actually next Tuesday, members only training. We're going to have the NSSA IRMA Certified Planner organization. These are the owners who provide a designation around a Social Security, being a Social Security expert or an IRMA expert. Now, this is all tied directly to long-term care planning. Make sure you're a part of our members only call if you're not yet. And then 2 Tuesdays from now, May 26th, we're going to dive in with Equitrust, one of our top external directors and trainers on the topic on that long-term care bridge program, and also a IUL a product through Equitrust that provides a 12% bonus with an enhanced benefit that can convert their death benefit into income and long-term care. Pretty unique. Nobody else is offering that. Make sure to, if you're not a member yet, get signed up today. All right, guys. Thanks for being a part of our call today. Thank you, Ricky. Thank you, Brett. Appreciate you, boys. And
Heck
man,
yeah.
let's take the next step with these guys.
Let's do
See you
it.
guys.
Everybody
Thanks.
have a great day. Thanks for joining.